we did cover it broadly, but I think people don't realize that most counties in America have adopted what they call the IRBC codes, which is the International Residential Building Codes, and those codes they're called the International Building Codes, but they're primarily adopted in America. I think maybe in Canada to some extent, but and those, because they're all adopted, some variation of those codes, that's the code that really needs to be changed, because that's the one that has the minimum house sizes, and it has the, it sort of stipulates certain sizes for each type of room, like a kitchen should be X by X and a living room X by X, and if you have this much square footage, you need at least this many rooms, and things like that kind of get in the way of creative housing structures.
Yeah, and I think, beyond just creativity too, there are obstacles to, I'm not sure, what the codes necessarily are in LA, but, in a lot of places, like if we wanted to take, our tiny house to Denver, for example, it's harder in a lot of urban areas, or in Boulder proper, they have codes against having temporary structures in backyards and things like that, and so it's harder to find a place to put your tiny house in a lot of urban areas. And then also from an insurance perspective, there's actually a woman up in the Northwest that we just learned about who was almost done building her tiny house, and she had a fire and it burned down. And the tiny house community has sort of risen up, and there's a lot of fundraising going on to sort of help her rebuild the tiny house. But because they're sort of not traditional structures, it's really hard to get insurance to cover a tiny house, and that's something that would be great to see change as well, so that people can be a little bit more protected.
Mm-hmm. And along those same lines, funding for tiny houses is non-existent, because they're more, because they're temporary structures, more of an RV in that category than they are of a house. There aren't very many lenders who are willing to lend, $26,000 or $50,000 for a tiny house, because they are worried that you can always pick it up and move it. Because you can. So in order for this type of an idea to really catch on, it's more than just changing the building codes. It's the insurance industry has to reevaluate their policies. The lending industry needs to reevaluate its policies, et cetera, et cetera.